Hello to everyone. So today we will be discussing and reviewing the role of emotional scaffolding in early childhood education. So first, we need to discuss the meaning of scaffolding. In case you don't know, scaffolding as an object is a platform that is used to build buildings. In education, though it has a totally different meaning, is a way of teaching whereby the instructor assists learners and their acquisition of some skills or knowledge, and the learner must gradually become more knowledgeable about the topic. So, in other words, is to divide the knowledge or the thing you're going to teach in chunks, so you teach them step by step, and their student must follow that gradually to gain the knowledge. And so now maybe you're wondering why it's important to use scaffolding in our classrooms. And the main reason is because scaffolding enhances problem solving. It helps teachers to connect already learned concepts with material that is part of a new lesson. And this previously uh, learned material helps to set a foundation in the students for new material to be learned. So connecting old concepts to new ones guides students in understanding how to deal with these new concepts in a better way. So scaffolding reduces a students' frustration and keeps them interested in what they are learning because they are learning everything in gradually in a process. So they don't feel the pressure to learn maybe something in a different way because um, probably or what you need to do is to use similar techniques in order to have your student engage and also to help them to understand something more easily with something that they already know. So now I will discuss some of the challenges that may arise by implementing scaffolding in your classroom. The first one, and probably the most obvious one, is that it can take a lot of time to set up. And this because you will have to create and search for new activities that will help your students to learn in a gradually way. And another thing that you might revisit existing lessons to identify points in their lesson where scaffolding is needed and come up with scaffolding activities that can enhance your students. Um, and this might be quite hard because the idea is that you have to search for activities that have a similar technique or style because in this way it would be way easier for your students to learn because they will already know some things and it won't be like something already new. Another thing is that you need to be able to identify your student strengths because in that way you build your next activity with the things that you know that they know how to manage. So in this way it will be easier. And finally, maybe you won't know where to stop. The idea of scaffolding in classrooms is that at certain point your student is able to do the things on their own. So you need to know where to stop when you know that everyone is like in a certain level and they can do it by themselves. So now I'm going to talk about instructional scaffolding versus emotional scaffolding. And for this, I will use the definition made by Rosiek, a researcher on the matter, and he defines emotional scaffolding as a teacher use of metaphor, visual representation, and narratives of subject concepts to foster a particular emotional reaction to the content. So while interactional instructional scaffolding focuses on the student understanding of a concept, an idea, emotional scaffolding consider their emotional reaction to this concept. So basically, instructional scaffolding focuses on their student understanding, and emotional scaffolding focuses on how they feel while they understand this. So while both are pretty similar and use similar techniques such as questioning and redirecting students, the difference is in the teacher's goal. Um, Yet instructional and emotional scaffolding often operate side by side. At the same time, a teacher might use instructional scaffolding by asking leading questions to help their students resolve a mathematical problem, for example. The teacher can also anticipate students' emotional reaction to elements of the task, such as the difficulty of the content, and ask about it or ask about why they are approaching this in this certain way. So that would be a mix between instructional scaffolding that is used to lead questions to help the students, and emotional scaffolding that is helping to know how the students are feeling with this task, for example.
Oh, well, now I'm going to cover some concerns of or problems uh, regarding this topic. And well, there is a troubling related emotional scaffolding and young children, and it has to do with ethical dilemma which childhood educators have concern, and this concern is related to the practice which they call as academic pushdown. So what they mean by academic pushdown? Well, in the text, refers to the practice of pushing increasing amounts of curriculum and teaching methods from upper elementary grades down into early childhood classrooms. And this practice has been concerned in the early childhood, and it has to do with the standardized testing on young children. So these academic pushdowns robs young children developmentally and cognitively appropriate learning tasks and replaces them with more rote styling or no, sorry, rote style learning. Well, in simple words, it replaces purposeful play with just worksheets. As mentioned in this research, majority of times a teacher cannot choose to not administer a standardized tests, and it's not easy for them to resist other push-down requests. So if we take a look over our context, this problem can be reflected in our national curriculum, which we found a lot of seat work and worksheets in early years at school. So learning about this, I could find that this academic push down could push out important phases of preschool education, like, for example, social skills that help children function successfully. And this is scaffolding this emotional scaffolding help learners to acquire data skills. And this function, it's intrinsically related to successfully in a group. When you have, or when do you develop social skills, also could push out their creativity, which or that promotes flexibility of thinking, which I think it's so necessary in the early years of a child, and also as well as a self-help skills that foster autonomy. And well, I'll take back seat when excessive amounts of time have to be spent sitting at a table with a tutor or drilling through flashcards. In that sense, you can mandate, or curriculum or school can't mandate brain development because it's a process, as we know, and it takes time to achieve that I don't know, that development in the over tiles. So yeah.
So, one of the main concerns regarding emotional scaffolding has to do with the questions: are we prepared to use emotional scaffolding in the classroom overall in childhood education? Are we really prepared for this? So, I have two questions for this. The first one is, how many courses prepare us to use emotional scaffolding in our professional instruction? So, analyzing IOMSA's curriculum for English pedagogy as we study, there are only 2 out of 58 courses that are fully dedicated to work with concepts directly related to emotion. That is to say, from the first year to our last year of instructions, we only have 2 courses that have the name of emotions on it. So, these courses work with emotions, classroom management, and socio-affective competences for teachers. So that is 3.4% of the whole formation regarding issues related to our students' emotions. So I consider that this amount of courses are insufficient to learn how to use emotional scaffolding. Besides, in our own experience, these courses are focused on working with higher levels of education, such as elementary, secondary, and high school education. Another question is, do we need more courses then? And the answer is that we think we don't need more courses. First of all, because this will be detrimental for our mental health, and maybe we wouldn't be able to manage to have more than 58 courses all along our career. So, is it enough with having courses that prepare us with emotional scaffolding? So, something extremely important to bear in mind is that emotional scaffolding is a piece of a bigger topic, which is teaching strategies. Emotional scaffolding can be learned through our teaching experience, strategies in TEFL courses, linguistic courses, psychology courses, personal experiences with early childhood or children, and obviously the self-reflection about our teaching practices. So for example, think about the last time that a child asked you how to complete a task. What did you answer? Did you use explicit instructions to tell them how to do something? Did you use examples, and what kind of examples? Did you use metaphors maybe, or I don't know, an example of real life with mom and dad, with their siblings or classmates? What tone of voice did you use? Did you speak like maybe louder, with a high pitch, with a low pitch? It is not possible to manage every strategy of emotional scaffolding since they are built throughout our teaching and learning process. As Park states in Emotional Scaffolding for Early Childhood Education, emotional scaffolding can look different in each classroom. Therefore, this is the main reason why more research needs to be done regarding this issue. Our instruction regarding emotional scaffolding will probably arise during situations that need us to use it with a learning purpose, with a teaching purpose. That is why courses will never be completely enough, as we need empirical evidence, like real-life evidence from the classroom and our students on how to use emotional scaffolding. On the other hand, we have, can we use emotional scaffolding for the benefit of the discipline that we teach, in our case for English? Let's start with emotional scaffolding and subject matter. Emotional scaffolding can be used for the benefit of subject matter as long as we know our students' backgrounds and their sociocultural context, what they are interested in, what they need. As an example of this, Rosick states, relates how a maths teacher used quinceañera's problem in maths to teach content to Latino students who struggled with English since it was their second language. So the teacher already knew that language was a barrier and that students felt left aside because of this, adding to this issue of adapting to a new cultural background, to emigrating to a different country. So because of this, she used emotional scaffolding as a strategy to encourage her students to participate. In this study, using the quinceañera topic from maths not only encouraged Latino students to participate, but also female students to participate more, since it seemed to be more appealing for them. In the end, emotional scaffolding created an academic response appealing to the students' interests, culture, and feelings. So, in its words, it helps them to feel safe and included in the classroom. So, in our own experience as English teachers, using emotional scaffolding is easier and more common than we think in the English teaching process. So first, because of our students' background, we tend to use topics that are appealing to students, such as music that they like, movies that they have seen before, or maybe their parents have seen, games that they have played, or maybe new games to learn how to play, and show the English learning process as a tool for communication and for having fun. In my own experience, I have shown English to my students as something that they can enjoy and understand step by step, by completing small tasks and activities. At the same time, using Spanish in the classroom to connect with my students' need has been useful, as I understand that English is a foreign language for them and they don't have a range of vocabulary to communicate with me in this language when they have a problem or when they feel sad or worried. So as I do this, they feel safer and actually more willing to make mistakes in the classroom when using the language, since they already know that I will be able to help understand and validate their needs and wishes, even when they are not fully performing in English during the lesson. So I use emotional scaffolding to give them safety in the classroom and so they can trust on me when they have a problem or when they're feeling anxious when learning a new concept or maybe a new vocabulary.
Well, doing a briefly analysis about emotional scaffolding in early childhood education, we can find that scaffolding allows children to solve problems or carry out a task that is beyond their current abilities. In that sense, is a fundamental component in early childhood education, and it's a bridge in which teachers create to connect existing knowledge to new knowledge and understanding. In that sense, we can mention the zone of proximal development by Lev Vygotsky. Well, the zone of proximal development is the difference between what a person can do and learn on his own and what he or she can do and learn with the help of someone who is more experienced. As a result, it's possible to state that scaffolding is collaborative in nature, and teachers need to join babies and children in play and build from there. Also, scaffolding requires several considerations. First, understanding children's overall development, understanding the ways individual children approach learning. Also, establish realistic learning objectives and matching strategies to each child's current interest, knowledge, and skills.